Thank you very much. I was told by my daughter not to talk about cholera at the dinner table. So in the spirit of Mr. Professor Weissman, I will try to use some levity. Jim Kim and I, years ago, we decided that we would have a new motto, and it would be umbrage, it will be taken. So when doctors are not given their due, I have the funniest table, I must say. But really, I'm making humor because I'm so moved to be presented the Prix Galien by Elie Wiesel. So the choice is to either lose one's composure or to make humor. And I can't say enough how grateful I am. I'm also grateful to my teacher, John David. Almost 30 years ago, I was lucky enough between college and medical school to go to rural Haiti. And I lived and worked for a year in a squatter settlement of people displaced. And I learned a lot about how human suffering was caused and understood locally and internationally, and spent a lot of time trying to understand what had happened to these people in a valley in central Haiti. And I went back to Harvard Medical School in the fall of 1984, and shortly thereafter I was lucky enough to meet John David, but I was one of many students. There are other students of his here in this room today, and studied parasitology and immunology, as he mentioned. And I learned a lot from Haiti, that first year in Haiti, which allowed me to be a better medical student. I'm sure of that. So my deepest debt, in addition to the debt that I have for people like Elie Wiesel, who have rendered meaningful to people who will not understand, would not otherwise understand, experiences of enormous extremity. And the way to do that is often to write and teach. And so as a writer and a teacher, I'm very grateful to you for choosing to be here tonight. I'm also so pleased to see you back in good health, and to choose to be here for me tonight means more than I can say. I do want to mention just one thing, and that is that the complexities of medical care and public health are great. We all know that. What we really do, however, is to apply the fruits of basic science. As Professor Weissman said, that's what we do in our work. Partners in Health is, as John David has noted, it's a medical charity. We run now 70 hospitals. We serve millions of patients. And they're almost all in places that are too rarely reached by the fruits of science and medicine, like rural regions in Rwanda, Malawi, Lesotho, Burundi, but also rural Haiti. We also have programs, I hasten to add, in the shadow of Harvard's great teaching hospitals, in Roxbury and Dorchester, and in the Navajo Nation. And in each of these instances, that's what we're trying to do, to take the lessons of science and the fruits of science and technology and apply them. And to do that, of course, we need deliverables. To use a word, I'm almost certain that President Clinton must have used this word when he was here last year. And what he means by that, as he said, is preventives, diagnostics, therapeutics. The work that he has done, and we've also worked with him a great deal, especially in Africa and in Haiti, is to champion the equitable use of these great tools to save lives. We are anxious to continue our work to deliver the fruits of science and technology to people who need it most. And to do that, we're going to require a great deal of support, to use the term that was mentioned earlier tonight, platforms, really, of improving delivery of healthcare services. And it won't just be in Haiti, but also in this country and in many others. And I'm so grateful that you've chosen to elevate our work with Partners in Health, also our work teaching doctors and nurses and community health workers in more than a dozen countries. And John and Roberta, thank you for believing in our work and for supporting it over these years. Other friends who are here, Maria, my colleagues from Harvard and the Brigham and elsewhere, Abby Gardner, thank you for joining me here tonight. I'm so grateful. I'm looking forward to joining this community. And I can close in French, Bono. Did I mention that I speak French? I was actually a professor in France for some time, but that was not known. I just was in Montreal. This will amuse you and end on a light note. You know, it's kind of weighty to talk about delivering the fruits of science and technology to people living in poverty, so let me end on a light note. It's been a very unusual couple of years since the earthquake in Haiti, very difficult. Many people in this room, probably most of the people in this room, have supported our work in Haiti. It's an astounding thing to be a doctor in Haiti and to have worked there now these 28, almost 30 years. We had about 20,000 reliable supporters of Partners in Health. After the earthquake, that number went to 200,000 donors to Partners in Health within the first few days after the earthquake. And that was followed, of course, by teams from around this country and around the world. One of the most unusual alliances that we formed was with a rock band. And I had actually never been to a rock concert in my whole life, which is somewhat embarrassing. And a band called Arcade Fire has already been supporting our work. They were based out of Montreal. And I was there 2 nights ago. I did a series of discussions at University Concordia and was thanking members of the band. The lead singer is Haitian Canadian. And I kept on saying how proud we were when the band won the Emmy this year. I said it about 5 times. And finally she leaned over and said, "Television wins Emmys. We won a Grammy." So I bet you half the people in this room did not know that. Professor Weissman, you can tell me, he didn't know. And I'll tonight before I leave, I'm getting on a plane at 11 o'clock, I will do a scientific survey of all the Nobel laureates here tonight and find out if they know what a Grammy is. But I did go to their concert that night, Bruno, and was asked to give all my comments in French. I did, French and Creole, you'll be proud to know. But I noticed there was an article yesterday in Le Monde, your nation's journal of record, saying that I appeared in a tie and sweater looking very uncomfortable. Now, that is true. I was in front of 100,000 people, and I got to live out a fantasy by saying, "Thank you, Montreal." "Merci, Montréal," I said in French. Pretty good French, I hope. And left feeling somewhat uncomfortable. Tonight, I feel very comfortable and very grateful. And I, again, want to thank all of you on the committee, people who I so admire. Mr. Wiesel, again, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I will never forget that you handed me this medal. And to sit with people such as those gathered around my table is something I will never forget. Thank you so much for honoring me.